Blog Talk Radio.
Circuit breakers in. We have separation. Inboard and outboard, they're on. We're coming forward with the side stick. Looks good. Roger. I've got a blowout. Neighbor 3. Pitch to 0. Engine out. I can't hold altitude. Correction. Alpha hold is off. Trim selected. Emergency. Flight Tom, I can't hold it. She's breaking up. She's breaking. Y'all been asking where the Trump supporters are, right? Why we've been so quiet? Where all the Trumpies at, right? That's what I've been hearing. We've been here the whole time. We don't need a safe space. We don't burn down our cities. We don't riot when things don't go our way. And if we look...
What if the American people woke up and understood that the official reasons for going to war are almost always based on lies and promoted by war propaganda in order to serve special interests? What if we as a nation came to realize that the quest for empire eventually destroys all great nations? What if the American people learned the truth?
The FBI has foiled about 17 plots to kill Americans during the past 10 years. What it will not tell you is that there have been 20 foiled plots, and of them, 3 were interrupted by members of the public. The 17 that were interrupted by the feds were created by the feds. Why do we pay the government to trick us into believing it is keeping us safe? What if a government that manipulated us could be fired? What if a government that lacked the true and knowing consent of the governed could be dismissed? What if it were possible to have a real game changer? What if we need a Ron Paul to preserve and protect our freedoms from the government? What if we can make elections matter again? What if you could love your country but hate what the government has done to it? What if sometimes to love your country you had to alter or abolish the government? What if Jefferson was right? What if that government is best which governs least? What if I'm right? What if the government is wrong? What if it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong? What if it is better to perish fighting for freedom than to live as a slave? What if freedom's greatest hour of danger is now?
It's critical that every citizen of this country rise up and do something, because the day of reckoning is at hand and time is running out.
Unless we do something, we're going to get the government that we deserve.
How did you let this happen? Wake up out there. You know, it's your children. Don't you care? Look what these people are doing to you.
There are 200 million adults in this country. Why we are letting them get away with what they are, why we're not marching in the streets.
Do everything in your power to restore freedom and your individuality back to America. Stop being a country run by the institutions for the institutions. Let's go back to we the people, by the people, for the people.
We have to stop being scared. We have to stand up and do what's necessary to take back, to stop these bankers, these elite, this government full of lies, congressmen full of liars.
And the Federal Reserve, and the fractional banking system, and the Fed. Elect Ron Paul, and the war.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You, the people, have the power. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, let us all unite!
Everybody, Joseph Gibson podcasting here, understanding the times in which we live today, March 15th, 2022. Here from Greensboro, North Carolina tonight. Was on the recording here prior to coming on here with the Republic over there. Hopefully some of the Republic people came over and joined me here tonight on the podcast show. And the times that we live in now, can you just imagine? Go back 10 years ago and imagine, where were you March 15th? Where were you the month of March 10 years ago, 2012? Think of how drastically things have changed and how different things are today. And you sit back and you wonder, 10 years from now, where are we going to be? Can we make it another 10 years? I remember saying to myself, are we going to survive another 10 years? And I knew then that the New World Order did not have everything it needed in place for the end to come, or for things to really, really speed up out of control. We still had a grasp on things. We knew things were bad. We know we had Obama as president, and but people were calling for the end. And I was like, no, it's not coming yet. It's not coming yet. It's not yet. But now you look at the world and instability, and right now you can see that things are really getting pretty close here to it's go time, where drastic changes are going to happen. This reset, everything is happening so fast. People are losing their minds. I was just having a conversation where we were talking about COVID, how your mind is attacked, and you have conversations with people, and it's like, don't you remember telling me this? Don't you remember telling me that? It's like people live in it, and I feel like you're in that twilight zone. And it's not me losing my mind, is it? You're in that type of that era that nothing feels unique anymore. You remember back years ago, Christmas time. I know Christmas is a pagan holiday. I get all that. I did the research and everything, and I got all that. Jesus wasn't born on December 25th, born in October, and yeah, okay. But Christmas time back in the 1980s, I remember, even in the 90s, you had that nice feeling. The holidays were coming. Even Easter. And Easter, we know, is not what it really is. It's not it's the Easter bunny, hippity hop, yeah, okay. But even then, families would get together. You'd have a holiday dinner. There was, you had that unifying thing about America. 9/11. You remember how everybody was unified and even though we were fighting the wrong enemy, but still we had that America. It was people. There was honor amongst thieves, I guess you could say. We don't have that anymore today. Nothing feels the same. It's all we're just going with the flow. There's nothing to get excited about, really. There's nothing to invent. There's nothing to come up with new. There's no play here. It's all been played out. It's like like the football game. We play it every which way we can. There's no excitement anymore. Overtime boring. We ball. We're there. Man has fulfilled his quest with this dispensation of time. And I don't want to get into a theological debate or religious or whatnot, but if I've studied the dispensation timeline charts and whatnot, and the 6,000 years, 7,000 years, and it's the only thing that makes sense. And we were just talking about the Bible over there, the 7 translations of the Bible, and the King James Bible, why it came out during that time, and everything, and the year 1948 when Israel became a nation again. Look at Matthew chapter 24, the parable of the fig tree. We know the fig tree is the country of Israel in the Bible. We know the fig tree is, and when it puts forth its leaves again, then we know these times come. The end times, and not a generation shall pass, and then the Son of Man will return. That's what Jesus says in Matthew chapter 24. Okay, well, Israel became birthed again and became a nation, poof, out of nowhere in 1948, and not a generation. What generation? Well, a generation in the Bible usually is 70 to 100 years. Well, you take 1948, add that on to what? We're getting pretty close, 70 to 100 years. If we say 100 years, it'd be 2048. But that's our calendar too. We can't go by our calendar when we read a book. We're different calendars here. They go by a different calendar over there than we do, but it's relatively the same time frame. So people say, well, then what about the 6-Day War? Maybe it started then. Well, look, we can't. Nobody knows the time or the hour when this is all coming down. But we know the Red Army comes and invades from the north in the Bible, right? The Red Army comes down and attacks Israel, and the Antichrist, God stops it, and the Antichrist takes credit for it, and then deceives everybody. And supposedly we would get raptured out of here and all that. I don't buy into that. I just don't see it doctrinally. The Bible, people argue with me on that. We've had debates on this show about it. But look, the bottom line is this. Okay, it's true. The Red Army comes down, and we know there's going to be a one world order. We know there's going to be a man of peace that shows up. It's going to solve all the problems. And sure enough, in today's time, we're getting close to that time where we really looking for that, aren't we? Because we live in crazy times right now. People are nuts. Man's heart is wax cold. We don't care about each other. We're stab each other in the back in a split second. Children killing each other. Women ruling over their men. Brother against brother. Children unruly. We surely can see that, can't we? Can we not see that happening today? And no, that was not happening 60 years ago. Okay? The biggest crime you can get in trouble for in high school was chewing up bubble gum. All right? Now they're bringing guns to school, killing each other. So, no, it's not the same thing as it was back then. So today we live in perilous times. So we got to be getting close here. But we can also have an awakening. We can have an awakening. That's what we've been having a lot. And that's why this is being stopped. And when I go back now to the Republic, we have people out there. We have this foundation. We have this Republic here, with this tree of liberty, freedom, to be free. But we also have to have nature's law, and we have to understand all this stuff, and you have to combine. We should be studying this. We should be researching this. We should be looking into this. We should be talking amongst each other with this. We should be using the internet with these podcast shows to discuss all this, to coming together, to be closer to our God, to make ourselves better as people, human beings, whatnot. But we're not. We're divided. We're all doing our own little thing. We're divided amongst ourselves. This one wants to attack this one. This one wants to do this. This one wants to hurt that one, and we're just hanging on by a thread. But the Republic is still there. America is still here. We still have this great country. We still have freedom. We still have the Constitution. No matter how blinded the judges can be to the law, no how corrupt the courts can be, no matter how wicked D.C. can become, we still have good out there. And it's not gone yet. Just imagine, though, when it is gone and it's wiped out. There's no more good people around. So people say, well, I don't want to go to church because there's hypocrites there. Well, you go to Walmart, right? There's hypocrites there. So come on. Stop making excuses. Start joining up with the podcasts like this and programs like the Republic and coming together. Download the YouTube videos of the show and support what is right. You know in your hearts what is right, the people that tune in. I know we get idiots that tune into this podcast show and they don't know, and they cause problems and everything. I know, and they get through on the phone lines. Okay, and I know I was on Howard Stern the other day or whatever. They were sending me, your show was on Howard Stern because of the crank callers that called in here. They were making fun of my show on Howard Stern. Okay, that's fine, go ahead, but the fact of the matter is this show will carry on, and even Howard Stern knows that I'm right, that we're in trouble here, and we need to start getting together and fixing and restoring our republic. And we all have a part somewhere in this plan, in this puzzle, in this game of life, and it's time to play that part and be a part of something positive and unique and become a part of the Republic. Okay? And that's the best thing I could do as an intro here to show you, to describe this. I'm going to open up the phone lines here in a minute, but let me touch real quick here on the news. The news here, global emergency. Putin asks China for military aid, arrests spy chief, and massive escalation. All right? So China, again, million-man army coming from the north. It's the only country over there that can have that, do that, combined with Russia. So Russia and China alliance. U.S. intelligence warns of Russian chemical attack. Don't pay no attention to stuff like that. Exclusive biological weapons expert exposes labs in Ukraine and China run by U.S. government. You're already dead. Let's see, the coronavirus. We're talking about that, how it's attacking people. Play a little bit of this, and I'm going to open up the phone lines for everybody. 657-383-0616. Press the number 1, and I will get you on the podcast live, on-screen, uncensored. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. Don't worry. Nobody knows who you are, but you can speak.
Humanity has awoken to the fact that iodine is key in our bodies for our immune systems and more. And we have the best iodine you're going to find anywhere at InfoWarsStore.com. It's X3 Tri-Iodine.
I told you thousands of times, every show, multiple times, over and over and over and over. Get ready to crawl in a hole and die of radiation poisoning, okay?
I know the day it happened.
I'm sure it feels very real to you.
It's going to feel pretty fucking real to you, too. Anybody not wearing 2 million sunblock is going to have a real bad day, get it? You think you're safe and alive?
Most of us are dead. You understand that? You're all dead.
You're already dead, everybody. You're dead already. There's only 3 of you think good. You're the one living in a fucking dream knowing it, because I know it happened. It happened.
Boss Rob's going to murder you.
Everybody, understand the times in which you live today. 657-383-0616. Let me open up the phone lines here, see what we got here. Let me go over my phone board here. I'm not even looking at it yet. Let me look at it here. Go ahead, press number 1. All right, we got, I think I recognize this number. We'll take him first. Go ahead there, 970.
Hey, good evening, Joe.
Hey, how are you? I recognize the number. I figured I'd get you here. I had a couple private callers before you, but we don't know who they are, so go ahead there.
Yeah, well, it was an interesting intro you gave, because I've thought a lot about what you stated. And you know that I'm the type of person, over all the years you've known me, I don't dwell too much on the problems, but I really look at solutions. And in analyzing all of that, the good book says that there'll be a world without end. And that we get to choose which jurisdiction we want to live under in our eternal life. And I do believe that also applies here to our physical life, that we get to choose which jurisdiction we want to live in. To illustrate that, back in the days of the Bible, there were slaves that earned their freedom, and they went out and they were free men, but many of them weren't equipped to know how to operate in that system, and so they came back and they took a piercing in a ring in the ear to signify that they were indentured servants for the rest of their life, and they gave up their freedom for the sake of security, because they didn't know how to operate in the free man's world. And I think that speaks volumes as to where we are today. We're at a time where there are so many problems around us, we don't know which one to look at first. But nobody is thinking about the parachute. the ripcord, and that's our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And so, we get to choose which jurisdiction we want to live in. We get to choose which jurisdiction we want to live in, if it's fear or hope. And I look at what's going on in our world today like giving birth. It's dangerous, it's bloody, but something new and fresh is coming out of it. And I think that's where we are as a world and as a country today. And I'm here to spread hope and education. And I believe that that's what people are hungry for. Thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And people are looking for that. They're looking for this this hope or some sort of hope or leader or something to rise up and guide us. Everyone's looking for that voice out there to guide us the right way. As far as the Republic goes, look, we've been battling this, going at this for a while now. And the Republic at one time, I remember, the phone lines there when Kelby Smith there was doing the show there on the Republic. I remember, how many people would call in and the amount of people and the people that, it was quite traction. The traction that was being, I couldn't even get in sometimes when I would call. But I never really talked at that time. I was more or less just listening and learning and watching and listening to Mr. Turner and seeing where we were going with the Republic and the grand jury system. And now I've seen how everything's been disbanded, and now we're trying to get this Republic back together to reorganize this platform here. To tell people, hey, look, the Republic is still here. Don't you see what's happening yet? Before it's almost over. It's end game. The time is now. But what are you getting from feedback and from the Republic side as being the governor of the free state of Colorado? What are you getting as far as traction back into that? We can't repeat history or how large we were, the momentum we had going, and we had such a great thing. Memories, yeah. But what about today? What do we got going for us today as far as the movement and traction as far as the Republic is going?
Well, Joe, I'm gonna tie a couple of incidents together to answer your question because I think it strikes right at the heart of the conversation. And you had shared earlier on the radio about a poll that was taken and that there was 150 people that your constituents had dialed, and you told them about the Republic, and 138 out of those said they would support your platform in taking back their rightful Republic. Excuse my dog, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
And that was quite staggering. And was Monday morning. I had to take my vehicle in and leave it at the shop and get a lube oil filter and a tire rotation, and I didn't know how long it'd be, so I caught a ride back home. And later on in the day, when it was finished, I didn't have a ride lined up, and I looked up. It was noon, and the neighbor had some painters, and they were kind of scruffy-looking characters, and they were been painting in his house. And he trusted them enough that he left the house during the day and worked, and they're painting there. So I walked over. I saw them getting ready to go into town for lunch. I asked them for a ride, and they gave me a ride. And they were not even your average blue-collar worker. They were some rough-looking guys. And
they're
not nice people.
Doing stuff for some pocket change. Yeah, not a legitimate, big-time corporation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just a running average American, trying to get through these days. And
sure.
I've been there, so I'm not judging. And I've if anything. And I asked him for a ride into town, and since we had about 8 miles to go, I started a conversation. Knowing me, I said, "What do you think about this Russian deal?" And it was quiet in the cab, and the driver finally cleared his voice. He said, "Well, my dad's retired Navy, and he works over here at this little convenience store, gas station, And I'm out here, been here for a few years, and this stuff that these media's feeding us is a bunch of hogwash, and Putin's, over there cleaning up these biolabs, and they were one of us. I was kind of surprised. And by the time that 8 miles had passed, I shared the Republic with them, and they were all ears. They were excited to know that there was a target, that there was a common ground. And I think that's where we're at as our country and as the world.
What you did right there, Governor, what you did is
209
what
nations
all of
signed
us.
on to clean up the Nazis and clean up the agenda of crowd control and depopulation and Agenda 21.
Governor, what you did right there was exactly what everyone should be doing. And no matter, listen, if you're going out to get a pack of smokes or a beer tonight, or if you're going to pick up a gallon of milk, and you're listening to this podcast and you're a part of the Republic, or if you're wanting to see change, you should be, when you go pay for it, hey, how you doing? There's no, of course, obviously there's people behind you. You can't start a conversation, you don't want to be rude. But, there's time, darn well what I mean. You're standing there, hey, what do you think about what's going on right now? Are you worried? Just talk and tell them about the Republic. Write down the website. Have a business card in your hand. That's what I do. I'm out there, I'm shop, wherever I go, hey, how you doing? Well, I do it now because I'm running for public office. I'll say, hey, you live in Rockingham County? Yeah. What concerns you the most? Just out of curiosity, what are you worried about? You see what's going on in the world today, and some people say, well, why do you ask? Well, I'm running for public office. My name's Joseph Gibson, blah, blah. And they're quick to answer. Some people answer anyway, and that's how you strike up the conversation, and you start telling them about the Republic, and you start telling them about restoring things. Most people are receptive. Most people will agree. Most people will be polite. Some moonbats are out there will disagree with you. I've had that happen a few times when I actually I had a guy argue with me telling me that the United States is not a corporation, and I said, what do you he was actually a history professor at a college, so once I found that out, I knew his agenda, and I knew he would never agree with me. Even if I showed it to him in black and white right to his face, he would never agree. But those people you just cannot reach. But my point being is, if you plant that seed, that person's going to go home and tell somebody else too. And I've had that circle happen to me, where my conversation that started with one person made it all the way back to me through another person. And now this person was a little bit off on how I explained it and the facts, because I'm not the smartest guy, but I know a lot about this stuff. So this person was like a baby talking. He didn't, and I kind of laughed because he didn't get it all, but he understood the message, and that's what we need to do is plant seeds. And I was thinking to myself, that's a seed that's planted, and that's a person that's out there on our side that's awake, that can turn things around and make things for the better, and that's what it's all about. I think I lost the governor. I'm going to reconnect him. Hey, other callers here on the line. Press the number 1-657-383-0616. Governor, I lost you. You're back on. Go ahead.
I'm here, Joe. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm here, Joe. Can you hear me? Good.
Yes, I can hear you.
But anyway, I took that as a real hopeful sign that we just got to get the message out. And it's a grassroots effort. We own our future, and it's up to us to inhabit it. When you get a package, doesn't do you any good if you don't unwrap it. It's Christmas, folks. Got to unwrap your package. Enjoy your present.
You got that right.
I'll yield, Joe. Go ahead and take some callers.
Yeah. I've got now I've got somebody else on the line here trying to cut through on the other line, and they're not. Boy, I tell you, when I do these shows, everyone could try to get a hold of me every which way except the way they're supposed to. But press the number 1, folks, on here. The phone number is 657-383-0616. I think I'm connected on one of my other platforms. That's why some people are not able to get through. Press the number 1 on your phone, and you will get through, and you can speak. those of you who are trying to get through. If not, then let me recap here how I opened up the show here tonight. We're talking about the global conflict that's going on. We're talking about the New World Order, the Republic, restoring the Republic, and whatnot. And a lot of people are nervous and they're afraid. And a lot of people, listen, I'm running for public office out there. And please, if you want to check out, if you want to interact with me through the website there that I've set up, it's a new website. Just got it up and running, basically, and so we got to get the kinks out of it and everything. But if you go to joegibsonishome.wix, S as in Sam, ITE.com /my/ not the slash / just regular dash, site. It's my site -2. Okay, that's what you want. Joseph Gibson is home .wixsite.com. And you go there, look up Joseph Gibson, you'll find me without any problems at all. I know I got to get a domain name that's going to be a little more better, but I'm a little bit skeptical about doing that because then you get your following, you get your base core followers, and then you switch up the title and switch up everything, the link, and then you lose half your people. And and it's hard because when you're running a campaign, you need every supporter you possibly can find and get. And if anyone wants to donate to the campaign there, you can donate there. Remember, everything has to be accounted for. I do have a certified committee with the state of North Carolina. You have to follow the campaign rules, and believe me, there's a lot of them. But you can donate to the campaign there and my platform and keep the campaign because it costs money, man. It does. It costs money to get signs made up. I'm doing mailing drives, postcards. I'm mailing all the registered voters in my county, giving them ideas of what I'm running for and how things can change. I mean, I'm getting a lot of feedback. For instance, Governor, I got a letter in the mail today. This is a good one, actually. You'll love this one, which I don't want their support technically, but it's Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood wrote me a letter. They said, "Dear candidate, please find the 2022 candidate questionnaire for Planned Parenthood votes. South Atlantic PPV SAT enclosed. Candidates who complete the questionnaire in full are eligible to be considered for endorsement by our board of directors. We respectfully request that you return your completed questionnaire to us by Wednesday, March 23rd. After I answer this question, I'm going to return it to them, but I guarantee you they won't be supporting me. Planned Parenthood. I don't think they'll be supporting me.
Answer it honestly.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to be saying support this guy. I'm surprised they would even try to send something out to me. We were seeing Restore the Republic. What were they thinking? But I guess they want, they need Republicans because I'm mainly Republican down here. And listen, the two-party system, I get the two-party system is broke, and I know the same money funds both sides of the coin here. I got that. But I can't run as a Democrat. I'm not going to run as, what am I going to run as? I'm not going to run as an independent, and I'll never win. I'll never get in there. I'm just wasting my time. You got to be a Republican or Democrat. You know that. But once we get in there, then we can change things around. We got to get in there, and we got to make our voices heard, and we got to get into the de facto corporation and restore our republic lawfully, restore our de jure form of government lawfully. I said, now lawfully, okay? No violence whatsoever. Violence will solve nothing. No way of nothing underhandedly, no deceitful tactics whatsoever. And which brings me, Governor, real quick here. I want to bring up. You remember the militia guys there that got arrested for the governor kidnapping plot, right?
Oh yeah. I about them quite often.
Yeah, they got the Well, remember we had a lot of those guys calling into the shows at that. Remember back then, and they're on that trial. They got the trial going on now up there in Michigan for the kidnapping plot. But I don't think that they really. I think they were set up. I honestly do. I don't think they were really good. I think that they were not a good group of people. That was most of those guys there. They're spewing violence, and their rhetoric was not something that the Republic supports. And I don't support that type of rhetoric. But I don't think they were actually going to kidnap the governor. I don't think they were going to do that. Well, you want to give your opinion just real quick? Because, I think Barry, he called in a few times, and you were on the phone line when he called in. So you want to give your opinion on that?
Well, I think that there was a typical three-letter operation where they went out and found fertile ground, and they stirred that fertile ground and planted seed and encouragement and provided other support, encouragement from the various, me's that
individuals,
the dots there, and so all they needed was one individual and 6 of them, and that was what we experienced, and so really it was all about them. They just needed a scapegoat to justify their actions, and that was
because that happened with the Republic. That happened with the Republic. They put bad people in the Republic, and police officers were actually murdered, at one time. They were attacked, and we don't support that type of activity whatsoever. That type of violence,
Nope. And being who we are, Joe, I want to tell you about your earlier comment, and I said just self-identify like a good prairie dog, and let everybody know who you are, and you won't have anything to worry about. When you got two personalities, now you become somebody you're not, and you're a Biden or a Harris or a Pelosi or one of them instead of one of us. So, just be one of the people, and the people gravitate towards that, Little Bobert, little old restaurant owner down here in Rifle, Colorado, got an attitude and got a little support, and you hear about her quite often in the national news. Old Representative Bobert, little old gal, 100 pounds, but boy, is she a spitfire. And,
why? What happened? Educate me on that one. I didn't hear nothing about that.
Yeah, she's a Colorado State or national representative, and she's packs her gun in the House of Representatives and is one of us. And so there are other people out there. You're not the only one that said enough.
Okay. She didn't do anything unlawfully, did she?
No, no. She just.
Okay. I misinterpreted you. I thought she got in trouble. That's what I thought you meant. Okay.
Well, they don't like her. They don't like her constitutional rights that she likes to exhibit.
Yeah.
So
of course not.
Making the news. Yeah.
Of course, corruption would never support the Constitution because when you're constitutionally sound and you obey the Constitution, there's no room for corruption or deception. You have to obey the law, and the law is you have to have a lawful form of government. And if you don't support the Constitution, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're not about.
People are rising. I tell people every day. I think it starts. There's 3 things that really hit home with people, and that's their personal stuff, their family stuff, and their money. And, they're hitting us on all sides, the deep state is, to attack the 3 most basic things we care about. And if we can show the people how to stand up and be victorious at the school board level and the education level and take the education and care of our kids back, I think that everybody's attention would be focused on us.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're right.
We got in the Republic. We have committees working on that concept as to how can we get a guideline out so that people can feel victorious.
Well, that was my next question, Governor. A lot of people ask me that. I lost 2 callers here who had their hand up. I apologize for that. I dropped you there. That's why my phone was ringing. You guys got to call 657-383-0616. Press the number 1. And that's how you will get on here, okay? You cannot call at my other number. Otherwise, you will not get through. Now, Governor, a lot of people they got this question of basically, what can the Republic do for me? They got that attitude, or how am I going to, or what, I joined the Republic. Now what? What happens? What's going to change? How do you answer? It's an ignorant question, but it's a question that a lot of people ask, and they're like, they don't want. They get scared. They don't want to be a part of something that they don't feel is the normal way of doing things. Well, you know what I mean?
I do.
You understand where I'm coming from?
I understand, and, Joe, we've talked about perception over the years. and it goes back to perception. So if you read the opening statement of the document, it is we the people. It's not me. Not I'm declaring my own independence, my own sovereign, righteous nation. My man on the land thing. That Constitution is we the people. So that means that when we the people decide that we're going to throw the BS flag and call a foul and exercise a penalty and accept the responsibility of seeing that this game is held according to the rules, that's our job. And we the people is one by one by one. And there's an exponential curve in there. And every time the Republic hit that exponential curve, they sent out infiltrators to divide us, to conquer us, to kill our people off. And because the war against the Nazis, we're fighting in the Republic the same thing at a level with the same tactics that's going on in Russia.
Yeah. What about Governor, the Constitutional Sheriff's Association? Remember, we were high on that for a little while, riding that wave. How's that coming out?
Yeah, Sheriff Mack and that group of patriots is definitely the way that people get involved in the days to come to protect your local communities and help law enforcement in a lawful, recognized, organized manner. And that's to get involved with the CSPOA.org and sign up. And then through that membership, you can go to a Patriot website. I think it's the Patriots Network. But you'd have to check the CSPOA website. But through that communication then, what they've done is they've used the CSPOA as a sheriff's posse, as a meeting place, an organized, recognized meeting place to ensure that the rule of law is taken care of.
Yeah, I have an email right here. Yeah, I get bombarded with emails from them. Sheriff Richard Mack joined the Posse webinar today, March 15th at 12 p.m. Stuff like that. I get bombarded with them. But yeah, I think you're right. The Patriots Network. Let's see here. Let me click on the email here. Yeah, the Patriots Network. You're absolutely right. But you can go to the CSPOA Posse, Restoring Liberty in America. And like I get emails all the time. For instance, I got one right here from Sheriff Mack. Good day, Patriot. We're having a CSPOA Posse webinar today, March 15th at 12 p.m. Central Time. And click here. So you'll get emails like that. So sign up for the, Now, what about if your sheriff, you vet your sheriff and he doesn't cooperate? Now what do? You try to vote him out of office?
Well, under those conditions, and you've got, let's say, 100, let's say 300 of your county people that are willing to pick up arms and go under the banner of CSPOA supporters to ensure a constitutional governance, and now you have one or a handful or a small amount of people accountable in the public light to an organized group that wants to see it done right. So it's a statement without a threat.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, we're trying. It's like the border situation down there and down our border. Our border is absolutely being overtaken, overrun, and nothing on the news media about it anymore. Nobody talks about it anymore. Remember, it was such a crisis, and not even in alternative media. Nobody discusses it anymore. It seems like we go in cycles. 1 month we'll talk about the border. 1 month we'll talk about this. 1 month, and it's like, nothing is ever solved. The problem, nothing ever materializes. Is there any victories? Have we had any victories as American patriots out there since Trump was elected? I don't think we've had any victories, Governor.
Well, you're right, but you ask what the Republic can do for the people. When we, the people, are back in control rather than the mob, then we get to control our own life and our own destiny and not be taxed to death and not have all of our workers laid off in the oil field so that they can raise the price of gas because we buy it from our enemies. I mean,
yeah.
Stupid, you know, I mean, how much stupid can
Stupid is,
American
stupid
people
does.
take? You know, and expecting the same thing, you know, doing the same thing, sitting back on the couch, eating your popcorn or beer nuts and having a beer, whatever. That's your reality.
Yeah.
Welcome to it. But there are those out there that are going to put their beer aside and have a celebration after they kick somebody's ass. And, you know, we got to figure it out. This is your future, America, and it's on the line. And there's a way of doing it that the world recognizes, and that's through the Republic. It has stood in receivership of the assets of this defunct corporation. And, you know, we were talking the other day, Joe, if we'd have got our country back in 2012, we'd have had to clean up all this mess. And the world's really been divided on top of it. You know, they've allowed this thing to kind of become a boil or a pimple, where it's finally come to a head and it's going to actually eat itself up. We say cancer eats itself up, you know. And so that's where we're at. And great, praise the Lord, that this thing's going to pop. We know it is. It can't go much longer. But my question is, rather than having the deer in the headlight look when it happens, why don't you get organized? Why don't you get prepared? Why don't you man up? Why don't you go to boot camp? Why don't you get involved in the Republic? Get an education. You know, I mean, on and on and on. And it's your future, folks. What are you going to do with it? That's my question to the people.
I agree with you wholeheartedly so much with what you just said right there. And it is hard to build something out there. And it's so important. People need to understand this. It's hard to start a website. It's hard to get a following on social media. It's hard to interact with people, and get people to take the time to message you and talk to you or to interact with people, and especially when there's nothing in it for them as far as money goes, because everyone out there, all they care about is money and what they can get and what possession they can get or what's in it for them, and that's a shame. And we can't, and that's the attitude of our country today, and it's a darn shame. And it's such a far cry from what you grew up with, what I grew up with even, or our parents and grandparents grew up with. It's got to be sickening. If my great-grandfather was alive today, he passed away when I was my great-grandfather passed away when I was 18 years old. And if he was alive, great-grandfather, not many people get to grow up with their great-grandparents, I mean, I got to enjoy 18 years of my life with my great-grandfather. This is somebody that grew up during the Depression, that generation is gone now. They're not with us anymore. I remember out in Wisconsin sitting with 85, 86-year-old dairy farmers in 1984, 1985. I'm a kid. These guys are, 85, 86, 87. And one guy was 92. His wife was 91. Imagine that. This is 1984, okay? I'm sitting there with 90-year-old dairy farmers. Now, these are people that were born in the 1800s, okay? Now, obviously, they knew their grandparents, right? So they knew their grandparents. Their grandparents obviously were around 1810, 1812. Imagine that, talking to people who knew people back in that time. That is true history being taught to you right there. And they said, tell me stories, about his grandfather used to talk to him when he was a kid, and tell him stories how things were in 1830, 1825. And because I was fascinated by history. I was like, wow, what was it like in 1810, 1825, Imagine that, me talking to somebody who knew somebody personally, his own grandfather, grew up during that time, who may have even met George Washington, met John Adams or Jefferson, which they didn't. But I'm just saying, they were around during that time. Imagine that. That's history. That is quite a chain of history there, huh?
I'll tell you a true happening, and you just can't make this stuff up, Joe. I was introduced to a guy. You can research it. His family goes back way, way, way back. The last name is DeHaven. And in visiting, getting to know him, he told me that his family came over to Mayflower. In that group, they had merchant ships. I believe it was Holland, and that when it came down to the Revolutionary period, that his family had sold the family ground for $250,000 in gold and purchased supplies from the French to supply the Revolutionary Army to cross the river there on Christmas Eve, on Christmas Eve.
Really?
And then later, all this is documented. You can Google it and read about all the stuff. But anyway, later his granddad or his lineage, the same people had provided ships to the shores of Tripoli to defeat the Somali pirates that were bombarding or causing problems there on the coast. And I said, no doubt. I said, if you got a nail, bro, you need to pop one, because my granddad or my family's lineage goes back to John Paul Jones, the father of the American Navy. That was a pirate that had a price on his head. He escaped into the Americas and took on the Jones name as a further cover. And so obviously the DeHavens and the Joneses had some brews together when they figured out how to put a Marine Corps together, the Navy together, and go over and take care of the Somalis and put them in their place. Now, isn't that a story?
Yeah. But see, the problem is you say Somalia now, and that you'd be a racist now. You know, you can't talk about true history anymore because you're a racist. I tell you. But yeah, that's quite a story. You can't make that stuff up, man. You know, and that's history. You see, the kids today, they don't enjoy none of that. It seems like that's lost today. There's nothing unique anymore. Remember, I opened up with that in my, today with the show, the podcast show. We've done everything. Everything is played out. There's nothing to be invented anymore. There's nothing to be conquered or created. You know, all the lands are spoken for. You know, there's no real tactical advantage to anything anymore. Everything's been done. You know, what can we invent? What movie can you create? What book can you write? Everything's been done. That's why I was saying we're in the end times. You know,
this lifestyle, Joe. See, because we both knew about our, because we both knew our family lineage and knew some history. When we opened up and communicated, we found common ground and unity, right?
Yeah.
So in the world we live in today, it's socially unacceptable to have those kind of conversations.
True.
So now we're divided. We have no unity, no bonds. You know, our bonds don't go back generations and end up in a you can't make this up moment. So, you know, we're all wandering around here as lost individuals. What's going to, bolt of lightning is going to hit us next.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Let me take this next caller here. Go ahead, private caller.
Hey, Joe, how you doing, man? I like this conversation is taking.
Yeah, good to hear your voice. How you doing? I thought I saw you earlier. I had a couple other private callers on there. They dropped. But go ahead, man. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I really appreciate the fact that you're making these references to history, and I noticed that either one or two things about leaders, political leaders, governmental leaders. The one way you can tell the best of them, and if not the best of them, the most dynamic of them. They may not necessarily be the best, but they're certainly dynamic, and the best of them are both dynamic and good, and they regularly make references to history. And they regularly appreciate history, and the best of them can relate it to events that are going on in the present. You know, you take people like Winston Churchill or people like even Harry Truman or any bunch of leaders who have some kind of historical respectability. You almost always find they are at least historically literate and frequently quite learned. You know, I mean, look at George S. Patton, for God's sake, constantly referring to making historical references and letting them inform his present-day decisions. And I think this is telling. Now, you look at a vacuous, simple-minded moron like Kamala Harris, you understand the distinction. I mean, you can see it. I mean, you can see. I mean, you can really see somebody has no frame of reference beyond her own existence, and is literally a creature of, I don't know, a privilege and affirmative action, no substance whatsoever, no knowledge of anything substantive other than what it takes to get her ticket punched. And then you compare it to somebody who really understands history and historical reference, and the difference is literally like light and darkness, literally. And these people, I mean, it's amazing. Remember I told you about that book I was reading the other day about, like I said, this book I just started reading, well, I just finished reading it. It was about the Frozen Chosen, the 1st Marine Division, and the Battle of Chosin Reservoir. And it had something to do with Ukraine. Because the author relates in it the situation involving the Chinese intervention against the United Nations of Korea. He talks about it, and he refers to Putin's reaction as being similar to the Chinese reaction in 1950 when they felt threatened. And he wrote it in 2015. 2015, wow. The man wrote this. Why? See, people with an understanding of history can always use that knowledge to make certain predilections or prognostications about the way things are going to go today, because even though the details and the circumstances may be different, human nature and conflict and strife does not fundamentally change.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And real quick, Sarge, for your military background and whatnot, we were on a show earlier, Jim and I, where we had the Air Academy instructor that was actually suspended because of COVID. They're refusing to take the COVID shot, and we were talking about the groups of military personnel that have been harassed and attacked and suspended or been action taken against them, reprimand or whatnot, for refusing to take the shot. And they just reinstated her and let her go back to teaching at the academy, and dropped, I guess so far, has dropped the governor. Governor, is that true? Maybe you could explain a little bit more. She's back, and I wish she was joining us tonight. Maybe touch base with that, because we have some people now that are listening from the military or former military that are listening now. Maybe you can explain a little bit more, Governor, what has happened. Maybe a victory lap here, maybe.
She's a retired lieutenant colonel, Sandy Mary Iki, and she was a test pilot. Worked her way up, was headed for the space program. As part of that beginning educational process, the space camp and all of that. She's quite a respected person. She was physics and biophysics professor at Berkeley before she was granted a spot at the Air Force Academy as a physics professor for the Air Force Academy. So quite a distinguished individual. And she held her feet to the fire and did it with grace and dignity of an officer becoming her, and apparently got him to back down to the point of where they demanded her return on a certain date or be considered AWOL. And on our show previously on For the People Radio 101.com, she had stated a private conversation that she'd had with a superior officer. And she told him that it was nothing personal. She was living up to her oath and the dignity of an officer, and that she hoped he didn't take anything that she was doing personally. She was doing it for herself, her country, her students, and their other officers, everyone on base.
Yeah, and so that's a victory victory. Yeah.
Yeah. And the guy replied, "Thank you." So, it takes one person to stand the line and say the buck stops here. And, that's what we're trying to do here in the Republic. Say, this is where we meet lawfully, legally, the buck stops here, and we can take control of this situation. But rather than us doing it, the white hats are doing it for us. So that we're not faced with the problems that we're living with today as a future. Those are already behind us. Now we have a clean chalkboard. What are we going to do with it? And it's good to talk to you. It's been a long time, Sarge.
Yeah. And you got the
look at look at the kind of
sorry.
hysteria that's going on now over what's happening in Ukraine. You've got people pointing, like, for instance, Tucker Carlson's pointing out what the United States government and the Deputy Undersecretary of State said about biolabs in Ukraine under oath. He makes reference to it and then asks reasonable questions that you should be able to extrapolate from the information that your United States government is putting out about the biolabs in Ukraine. And you've got idiots in the uniparty wing of the Republican Party like Mitt Romney and others calling such activity treasonous. It's literally hysterical. It's like hysteria is breaking out in certain portions of the population. Like they say, truth is one of the first casualties of war. We're beginning to witness it now with the situation in Ukraine. I'm taking everything I'm hearing these days with a grain of salt because I don't know what the truth is and what propaganda is. I'm waiting until I can get some sort of corroboration about everything. All it is an attempt to get us to shut our mouths and accept the official party dictum in line.
Yeah.
You're
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, you're mostly right, Sarge. Joe and I were privy to the 10-year plan, and told a lot of what was the targets. We didn't know the play-by-play because, the game changes. But we knew what the target was, and that gave us privilege to understand and have insight into what's going on. And the target is 80% of the population needs to be willing to accept a change no matter how drastic it is. You just draw a line in the sand and say, no more, give us a change. So that's the target. And it's kind of a multidimensional game where you have the New World Order and their agendas are playing out, and we're countering them and using their momentum against them so that they can self-identify, so that as they self-identify, they're rounded up and taken out of circulation and replaced with body doubles that still carry forth the movie to get the rest of the people to self-identify. And there's 200 nations that when Trump took the alternative to the New World Order to them, they all fell in love with Trump and his leadership. And in unity, we the people, we the world, 209 nations, Putin one of them, have our own respective agendas and things that we have to accomplish to meet the standards that we're going to. And so part of this is, it always revolves around money. And so we're entering a system. I do believe we've entered it already. I know that bankers are aware and participating, that they're qualified. And things are changing at speeds that are unbelievable. And people are being information waterboarded to get to that 80%. And we're at the goal line. The battle is fierce, and people are gagging. And we need that last little bit to get across the goal line. We are so there. That being understood, my question to the people, now what are you going to do with your freedom? You got to go and you got to put that earring back in and be an indentured servant in that jurisdiction, or you're going to be in the jurisdiction of the free man under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And that's our inheritance, should we choose to accept it. It's about we, the people. That's one by one by one. Thanks for letting me speak. I'll get it.
Yeah, go ahead, Sarge.
Yeah, you're going to take the blue pill or the red pill. I mean, they're literally trying to create a matrix for us to live in. There's a new trend now. They're talking about things like transhumanism. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Right now, it's kind of a pipe dream, but we can see the parameters of it beginning to form, and much of it has to do, of course, with the fact that the matrix they're creating for us is this great big social media credit score. Our government appears to be heading the way of Red China in that respect.
Yeah.
And if they achieve these transhumanistic goals, All they literally have to do is to plug us into their matrix, and whammo, the brave new world is here.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
There's plenty of evidence that the jab, the one that had the spike proteins, that RMNA and all that stuff, went after the God gene. And on our previous show on For the People Radio, we discussed that and how people we know have changed and aren't interested in the things they used to be interested in. And you know, back to a comment I wanted to make about a statement you had just made, was a quote from Ben Franklin when I signed our Constitution. And it meant so much to me, I memorized it. It's real short. This form of government will not work for any other nation in the world because our government is based upon biblical principles which mandate that each and every individual must hold himself above reproach. And when we look to the government to set our moral standards for us, we'll find we're no better off than anybody else in the world, unquote. And that's the answer to that. It's a moral and just society has a moral and just governing representative body. It's just that simple.
Wow.
Yeah, John Adams summed it up even more succinctly. He said, our Constitution is made for moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the governance of any other. I don't think you could sum it up better than that.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's
The people
all
need
about.
leaders like you. The people need leaders like you. I'd love to have a one-on-one with you, see if we can compare some notes and get on the same page. Joe will facilitate that if you so inclined. The invitation.
Well, yeah. Well, that's we definitely do need to network together in these times that we're in because Jim, you're out there in Colorado. I think Sarge, you're down there in Georgia, I believe. But you know, I'm here in North Carolina. I put my website up there, Sarge, in the chat room there for my campaign. It's my new website that we just finally got up and running for my campaign website, actually. So you know, I need to get a domain name probably. You know, people are already telling me I shouldn't use that as the name of the site, but as a URL. But you know, I'm doing the best I can here. You know, I got mailing. I'm mailing out postcards, mailing out my agenda, what I would support as far as legislation goes. I got questionnaires. I got Planned Parenthood. They mailed me something today in the mail. They want me to fill out, which I know they're not going to support me once I fill out this questionnaire. You know, so I got 2 FM commercials I'm doing on FM radio down here this week. I'm going to be making those commercials. I'm already on AM radio here. Did a commercial last week with that, and to be honest with you, when I did that AM commercial, as much talking as I do, I can't believe I stuttered and I got nervous. When I was in that little booth at the radio station, I started stuttering. I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, I had to do 3 takes. I said, I can't believe I'm nervous.
Good. Good. Get it all out of your system now.
Yeah, right.
Let me make it easy for you, Stars. Let me make it easy for you and everybody. If you'll go to republicfortheunitedstatesofamerika.org and send a contact request, I'll get the contact request for you, Sarge, or anybody else that hears my voice.
Oh, are we giving that ORG again, please?
republicfortheunitedstatesofamerika.org.
Okay. Yeah, I just bookmarked Joe's campaign page. So see, Republic for United States of America. Is that actually spelled out United States of America?
Yes, in its entirety, yes.
United States of America.org?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go up there and check it out.
Yeah, it's got a lot of good information on there, actually.
Read that 170, I think it's 172 pages, Joe, or 140. It's a long document, but it's our Declaration of Sovereign Intent and our interest on the assets of the corporation. Because our grandfathers, the people that created history for us, formed a corporation that's outlived its existence. It's corrupt. And
it's actually, isn't that on record? Isn't that on record with The Hague?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so we filed this with the world, with all the governing bodies, the UPU, everybody were first in line, first in time to receive the assets. And if you really want to make it interesting, those assets not only include what you think about, well, what do those mean? It means Executive Order, what is it, 18318, where Trump claimed the assets of the enemy that interfered in our elections. So that means as an American in the Republic owned stock in Google, Facebook, the banks, all these entities that is the spoils of war that Trump brought us with that executive order.
Well, Trump said that in his inaugural address, if you remember correctly. He said, "I'm here to restore the republic for the people." He said that's what he said. Nobody could figure out what he was saying, but I knew what he meant. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. When you know what he meant and what the game plan is, we live in exciting days, man. I get up.
But you see, he was supposed, but Jim, the point was he was supposed to be there for 8 years, and then the New World Order slapped him upside the head and hijacked the election. He was supposed to win. He was supposed to be president.
All it was a prairie dog. It was just a prairie dog hunt to get the remaining controllers to pop their head up so that they can self-identify. It's not
you
about
think that was
accusations.
you think that was set up for us? You think that was set up for the good?
That was a military sting at its finest. I used to do undercover work. I was involved in stings at all different levels, and this has been a Robert Redford quality sting. I mean, it's been a beautiful movie to watch.
Then why January 6th then? Why January 6th and put all those patriots on Front Street like that? That makes no sense. I don't,
Because when it's all revealed and tied together, the it has to accept the fact of the reality that they've ignored most of their existence, if not all of it. And it's a bitter pill to swallow. And when the world is at stake for humanity, the Nazi controllers versus human freedom, there is no card left unturned. There is no field left unplowed. That's the Ukraine, that's Taiwan and China, that's the United States.
But I just can't believe Putin's one of the
door.
good guys. I just cannot believe Putin's a good guy. I just can't believe
that. He signed on with 209 nations. He went into the BRICS system, which has been sitting there waiting for them for 10 years. And it's all fallen into line when you understand the New World Order, when you understand the global reset. Not Klaus Schwab, although that's what they're trying to bring down our throats. But the 209 nations have agreed not to succumb, but to take Trump's version of the reset for humanity. And we have a great new future ahead of us. But we've got to have the target in sight. If you can't,
why all the innocent people in Ukraine then? Why the innocent people in Ukraine? Hang on, you can't tell me that the people let me play devil's advocate here. Go ahead.
It's the same MO, Joe. We know they've been flying illegals in from Afghanistan and all over the world, Somalia. We know that they've opened our borders, that the southern border is just a free for all, and did the same thing when the Nazis invaded and took over the control of the governance of Ukraine back in, 12 or 14, something like that. And Biden's son got into power there with all the slush fund from Pelosi and all these people. It's where the mega yachts are at it, and all the mafia of the world gather in Ukraine. And so, just like in the United States, they've got all their army planted throughout our populace. They did the same thing in Ukraine. So Ukraine is a divided country as much as America is. The same MO that they're using in other parts of the world. They put their labs
I can buy that.
in children's hospitals. They take and put their labs in children's hospitals. They take and send bombers to Boston. They take and put labs and stuff in places that if there was attacked, to serve their narrative of human destruction rather than destructing the controlling substance that is engulfed under this basing humanity. And then Fox News has them caught on tape for this lady that's in governance is handing out AKs to their little militia, which is Nazi-trained militia, and she says, yes, we're fighting for the New World Order. She says, we're fighting for the New World Order, as she hands out the AKs. They self-identify. And so now the enemy, the Nazis, have got the weaponry to attack the Ukrainian people in mass as they try to escape and in their homes, and they blame it on the Russians. And all the Russians want to do is take the 30 biolabs that the deep state's protected through governance of our country, trying to subvert our governance and rule of law by sending fighter jets from other countries to our base in Germany so that we can go attack and protect the biolabs.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense, I guess you could say.
I ask you who's in charge here, because the response is by the commander-in-chief. It says no. So you got Biden and the Nazis on one hand wanting to circumvent the rule, and the commander-in-chief, J. Donald Trump.
Well, now let's play. Hang on, Governor. Let's play devil's advocate, Sergeant Governor. Hang on a second here. Well, what if Trump was president and Putin invaded? Just say what if. What would Trump have done differently?
There'd be a lot done differently, but the narrative would have changed.
Okay.
Agree, because Trump wouldn't be trying to circumvent the rule of law. He's trying to implement the takedown of the assets of the deep state. That's why they're seizing the assets of the yachts of the oligarchs.
All right.
Those are for the wars. Those are our yachts, Joe. You ready to go for a cruise, man?
Yeah. No, I got you on that.
You're about ready to be an elected representative.
Yeah.
You got some responsibility to the people. You got to go check out their assets. You got to get on board.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. That's why I'm learning. Hey, that's why I ask questions. I'm always asking questions, always. But I don't ask stupid questions. Obviously, you got idiots out there just ask the stupidest questions in the world. But no, I'm asking. I like to play devil's advocate because I like to look. The New World Order, all this is very tricky and peculiar times. And like I said, the devil is deceitful. Evil is deceitful. And they could trick the best of us, so we always got to be careful because, man, I don't want to fight on the wrong side, I just couldn't live with myself if I was on the wrong side,
Hey, nobody told me I was born a know-it-all, okay? I'm just working my way through this mess. I just got a different perspective than other people because of where I associate with and the situations as they are brought to me, literally, gives me a different perspective to realize the reality of the mess we're going through. And so then I look for solutions. What's the ultimate solution? And how are we going to play this out for the benefit of humanity? Because that's my oath. My oath is to humanity and the free people of Colorado Free State. And, get involved, people. It's your future. And
I wish we would have a few people from the Republic join in tonight.
Well, here's what I know beyond any doubt. I don't have any doubt about what I'm about to say here. I have no doubt that during the Obama-Biden administration, when Obama was president, they engineered an orange coup in Ukraine with the Euromaidan demonstrations that led to the ouster of the pro-Russian Ukrainian president, Viktor Yanukovych, and ultimately led to the installation of a pro-EU, pro-U.S. president, Petro Poroshenko. Petro Poroshenko was the president when all that corruption in Ukraine went down involving Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and Burisma. I believe they set up Ukraine. I believe they did this to install Ukraine as a sort of sovereign laundromat through which they could launder their ill-gotten gains. Now, I do believe that. I may not be precisely right, but I believe I'm mostly right. I'm certain of it, given the machinations, the transcripts we got of Victoria Nuland on a phone call with the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, a guy named Pyatt, P-Y-A-T-T, and how they're talking about who should be in the government and how they're going to set it up to ensure that this person wins and all of that, and then watching Joe Biden get a prosecutor investigating his son fired and bragging about it out loud on tape. There's no doubt in my mind that went down that way. And so the truth is a lot more nuanced than people want to act like, it being a big, David versus Goliath story, a plucky little Ukraine standing tall against the Soviet juggernaut. I get that. But I'm still not ready to get to the point yet where I'm willing to accept that Putin was justified in an aggressive invasion of Ukraine. I'm just not quite there yet. I don't know if I can get there.
Let me redirect your arrow. Have you ever heard of CMKX?
No, sir.
That happened during Reagan's watch. I have personal connections that serve high up to the staff on a daily basis in the need to know everything category. And Cottrell was the hatchet man that went in and stole the funds to the central banks and caused the breakup of the USSR. And you can research that out. Google CX, Cottrell. You'll get all the information you need. So Putin has a little skin. Putin has a little skin in the game. So somebody comes to him with a plan and says, "Hey, here's your future. There's going to be massive war. There's going to be massive upheaval. Things are changing because the New World Order, the Nazis are taking over, and you don't like Nazis. And you got a problem, boss. But my name's J. Donald Trump, and I got a solution if we can do it together. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to cash in all the antiquity bonds, and we're going to settle the world debt because the U.S. and the Treasury's been bleeding American people and sending their money all over the world, and gold has been stolen at the highest levels and out of the new world trade centers, and all kinds of things are taking place. And we're going to come to the table, we're going to settle the books, and we're going to enter into the quantum system. Well, that looks pretty good compared to being controlled by Nazis and depopulation and transhumanism. And so it wasn't hard to get 209 nations to sign on and say, yeah, we want what's rightfully ours, and we want a fair stab at a future existence. And everybody's for that.
Well, it sounds good, Governor. It sounds good if it worked out that way,
This is the target. This is the target, okay? This is a battle we're in. You want to know the truth, I'm telling you. So what's going on here is Putin's got his little thing that he's got to take care of, and that is the Nazis in his backyard. And he's geographically there, and it's convenient, and he can enforce it and make sure that it goes away. And even though he suffers, quote-unquote, repercussions, it meets the agenda because he detaches from the central banks and goes into BRICS and a gold-backed system, which is the quantum system, which replaces the SWIFT system. I have multiple friends that have millions of dollars disappear in the black hole of the SWIFT system. They've kept countries enslaved around the world trying to send money to African nations around the world to improve their life, and the money gets swallowed up in a BRICS system.
Okay, and where does the United States fit into this then?
So the United States is the leader in this, and we've been told all along, Joe, that the world's watching us reestablish our republic. And so it's evidenced by documents from Canada, from Steve Bannon reading for the people of China, their declaration of sovereign intent, and that they hold the CCP accountable for war crimes, and that they're first in line and first in time for the assets that's remaining of the CCP. And so the world is adopting our three-legged form of government with executive, legislative, and judicial, and freedom of religion, and freedom from the oppression of Nazism and their tactics of division and confusion and misinformation, and biolabs, and all of this stuff, and we're cleaning house. And the dust is flying, and we're winning, folks. But the question is, what are you going to do with your future? Because all of a sudden it's going to be handed to you on a silver plate. And this is what we need to get prepared for, because it's our future. What's going on is being taken care of, and we're just experiencing the symptoms of childbirth. There's going to be a great new future for those who choose to participate.
So what about the Communist Manifesto now and all that? The communist, Putin's a communist. That's communism. You're telling me that this is going to be a better option than what Nazis are you talking about now? What kind of Nazis are these? That when they refer to that term Nazi.
The Nazis that came ever since World War, well, it goes even back further than that. It all starts with Khazarian mafia. And Ukraine is old Khazaria. And so there are factions of the Jewish meanies that were the money changers in the temple that have congregated in Khazaria and run a worldwide mafia operation out of that. And that mafia operation goes into churches and all kinds of institutions
I know.
You'd never dream of where the tentacles of this octopus go. And but that's the seed of it. And this is the battle in their homeland to take them out. And it's a hot spot of the hot spot. This is the head of the dragon. And this is what we're witnessing in Ukraine. So we're not far from achieving victory, and we're going to come out the other side. Just like a newborn into a new world, pop, now you're in the world. What are you going to do? You don't have a wound.
When you
anymore.
look at Ukraine, though, you look at the pictures of it, just nothing looks peaceful about it. It's scary and evil. Yeah, mate. You know?
See, it is. It's a mess over there. They're just as
I
as
know
we are.
I know one thing. Vladimir Putin would not have made a move into Ukraine had not the United States, United Kingdom, and Russia itself given guarantees to Ukraine to respect their sovereignty provided they give up their nuclear warheads.
Well,
and that was in the Budapest
but,
agreements in 1996 or 1998?
Well, I understand that. But let me shortchange you and just go right to the answer. Joe, you've known me for a number of years. If I told you that I believe something to be true, I had documentation, you would
no. You're straight up as they come, yeah.
Okay? Yesterday, I'm on a phone call. The guy I'm talking to says a similar brother of mine is in daily contact with Trump's team. And he knows for a fact that Trump and Putin communicate on a daily level.
Now, how would they get around that? The CIA and all how would they get around? That's really dancing with the devil there. I'm not saying you're lying, but that's dancing with the devil.
Who was the commander-in-chief of the DOD that said no to giving airplanes to the enemy?
I don't know.
That said no to what?
To giving airplanes to the enemy. The Department of Defense, the commander-in-chief, said, no, Biden, you're not giving airplanes to the enemy. So who's in control here? So the answer lies in the answer to that question. DJ.
Oh, you're talking about the Secretary General of the NATO, Stoltenberg?
No.
Because I thought he was the one that put the kibosh on that deal.
No, it was our Department of Defense.
Oh, yeah, it was. Actually, he's right. He's right, Sarge. Yeah, I remember seeing that, too. Yeah. Well, interesting. Interesting chain of thoughts here at the end here. Very interesting indeed.
Interesting,
yeah. It is a tangled web, though. You got that right. You do have that right. Closing thoughts, gentlemen, to the podcast here. Governor, you've been on the longest. You go first, and Sarge, I'll let you wrap it up. If anybody else wants to join in, press 1 now. Go ahead, Sarge.
It's been a stimulating evening. Thank you for joining us earlier and for allowing us on tonight and talking to the American people. It's always a pleasure, Sarge. I've got to enjoy our conversations over the years and look forward to more in the future. And everybody get prepared. We've got some rough seas coming. Get 3 weeks. Be prepared to shelter in place because the enemy's going to come to the streets, and that's how they'll self-identify. And that's who the resources of us are going to focus on. So if you get in that mess, you're going to be one of them until it gets sorted out. So the easy avenue is have what it takes, shelter in place, 3 weeks. That's the official word. Get ready for it. This is your future. If you're not prepared, you're going to regret it. It's going to be tough. Thanks, Joe. Yield.
All right, Sarge, go ahead.
Well, thanks for the heads up, Governor. I've always had a plan to be prepared to be self-sufficient for at least 6 months. So I'm at least at that point right now. I think I might be able to stretch it to a year if I had to. So I've already taken your advice. No matter what comes, it's just part of the way I live. And I know this much, that for years and years and years now, we've heard how you're not supposed to let foreign entities interfere in an election. And apparently our government was doing exactly that in Ukraine.
That's
and the
right.
very people who pleaded the loudest about it were most active in interfering in the elections in Ukraine. And now here we are at this stage, at this moment. And you could count, and one thing I learned about these people is whatever they accuse others of doing, they are almost certainly the ones who are doing most of it themselves. And all this is, to me, to my mind and my way of thinking, it's all being proven out right now before our eyes. Like you just said, Governor, we got to be vigilant. We got to be prepared not to accept anything at face value. You got to be prepared to question everything and be prepared to take decisive action when in which these murky parameters reveal themselves to be visible. And that's like sum it up, it's what Thomas Jefferson said, that will always be true. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. And right now we need more vigilance than ever.
Amen to that. That was pretty good there. Anybody else here want to jump in here real quick? That was closing thoughts of tonight's podcast show. We've been on here, Governor. Boy, we spent a lot of hours on the phone, and a lot of, and Sarge too. Sarge's been doing it for a while. You know, it just goes to show what kind of people. You know, we're dedicated. That's clear. That's obvious. And we're out there, you know, communicating, doing what we do best, communicating with the people out there. And we invite people to communicate with us. And that hand is always out there. The invitation is always out there. So join us, and on here on this podcast show, check out my campaign website here, and let's work together here and all get together. And hopefully one day, Sarge, I'll be able to meet you one day. That'd be great. And and Governor, of course, you too, out there in snowy Colorado. You know, I can't stand winter. That's why. But yeah.
50 degrees in the sun today, and their ground showing through the remaining snow, so it isn't all that bad.
Still too cold, man. But you know, the Republic, we're here. You know, we're dedicated, and we're trying to do the best thing we can do, nonviolent, of course, and lawfully. But we'll wrap it up tonight with Ronald Reagan. All right, thanks, Sarge. See you next time. You too, Governor, and everybody else that listened in.
Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second: surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement, and this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement, and it gives no choice between peace and war, only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then? When Nikita Khrushchev has told his people he knows what our answer will be. He has told them that we're retreating under the pressure of the Cold War, and someday, when the time comes to deliver the final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary, because by that time, we will have been weakened from within spiritually, morally, and economically. He believes this because from our side he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price, or better read than death, or as one commentator put it, he'd rather live on his knees than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools. And our honored dead, who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis, didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals. And he said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.